everybody. Today I want to bring you a message about faith. So, I hear some different comments back and forth about faith, people writing comments and whatnot, and just in my own life I've really kind of questioned this, like, what is faith, and should you have faith or should you not have faith, or is it like faith and something else and it creates some kind of balance that works? And here's my answer, and I only know this through personal experience, like, you have to have an element of faith or it doesn't happen. And by it, I mean like the existential it, the everything it, like whatever it is you're trying to manifest, like whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's like you're trying to get out of this abusive situation or you're trying to manifest your dreams and live your purpose, whatever that is, it's like you have to have an element of faith there. And you can find that faith when you are like at the bottom. And I want to tell you a little piece about my personal story because I think it totally relates to this. And that bottom happened, in October. And so, fresh out of the abusive situation where you're like totally left from 0 point, you've lost everything, like not just finances and dreams and plans and all of that, but literally like, your self-esteem and your self-worth, and like literally everything is lost, and you're at the bottom. And the final crash had happened, in October when I had finally returned from Peru, and the most recent, devastating situation, which was the culmination of my experience there. Like the whole reason I went to Peru almost 2 years ago was because I realized I had kept attracting these narcissistic, abusive people, wherever they were on that spectrum. But the core thing was that there was this narcissism at the core, and I went to Peru to figure that out, like what in me was attracting that. Like I had figured out, and this is my old neighborhood, by the way, it's so funny, but I had figured out that there was some hook in me, there was some reason these people were attracted to me, and what was it? And that was the only thing maybe that I could control, and that if I could heal that, then I could stop attracting these people and I could change my life. And so that's why I went to Peru, and that's why I went to drink ayahuasca, because I was so deeply in denial. Like it had been more than a decade of doing holistic work and trying to figure it out and trying to heal, but without being able to pinpoint what the core issue was. And, and not being able to understand it. Even once I intellectually understood it, I still didn't get it. Like I wasn't snapped out of the denial yet. And so that's why I went there, because I knew I had to do something drastic to pierce through my denial, that I had to figure it out, and somehow I had to come back or continue on with that knowledge. So, I went with my brother, and the first 2 months we spent together, and then after that I went back by myself with Venus. But the first 2 months that my brother and I went, we processed a lot of childhood trauma together. Someone is sharing their music with us. And so, we had processed a lot of childhood memories together, and a lot of, the abuse that had happened and whatnot. And then I went back, several months later, and, during that time I had my own breakthrough understanding through the medicine and what it was. And I'll make videos on that someday. And then, I got into a situation with a narcissist, kind of, a little bit borderline type of character, but definitely narcissistic. And then he brought in a borderline person, and both of those people, were around me until I escaped that situation. And then I jumped into another situation, with a sociopath and a psychopath and like other narcissistic people surrounding that. And it was like I had to live it. I had to live it so deeply and so fully so that I could totally, truly understand it. So then that all fell through, with the final betrayal, and I left there in October, and the whole plan was to spend my life there. Like once we had built this dream and I lost the dream and everything, and I came back and I was crushed. So I went to my parents' house, because where else was I gonna go? I didn't know where else to go. And a friend of mine had offered me to go spend the winter with her, somewhere else so I can figure out what my next step was, but I had to land somewhere. And so I landed at my parents' house. And not even a week there, I started trying to figure things out and where I was going, and I wanted to like relaunch my holistic career, and I had been doing this for like a decade. I started with massage and body work and energy work, and then I went to Chinese medical school, and then I went to study acupressure and some other things, and it was like it was working and I was good at what I was doing, but I wasn't really successful. I was always struggling. Like I was always barely making ends meet, having to compromise myself and go get other work, that I didn't want to be doing just because I couldn't make ends meet. And I wanted to break that cycle, but I couldn't figure it out, you know? And it was like there's this whole other piece that was missing from that. So coming back from Peru, you know, and confiding then in my mom and telling her, like, so these are my dreams and this is what I'm going to do next, and, you know, I'm going to relaunch my coaching business, and, you know, this time I'm going to specialize in this and that because this is what I learned in Peru. And she just went, I can't believe it. Why are you even considering doing that? You have tried this so many times before and it's never worked before, and why would it work now? And, you know, you should just give it up and go get some job in retail and you know, just start like that, and just, you know, just go for the safety. And this was the message, and she was, you know, making this kind of movement with her head, like it was just like, it was excruciating for her to listen to me talk about this. And it was like in that moment watching her, like I popped out of my body and kind of watched that like from an observer point of view. And I was devastated, but I also saw her and realized like she had no faith in me whatsoever. Like she just wanted me to give up. And in that moment, it was like, it was so painful that it broke through my denial. And that's when I finally understood that I had to do it. And I didn't know how, and there was no plan, and it seemed impossible. Like there was no reason to have faith, you know? And when there is no reason to have faith, and everyone around you is telling you there's no reason to have faith, and you should just give up and conform and settle and, you know, all of this stuff, right? You know, if you give into that, if you doubt yourself and you stop and you give up, you're going to give up your dreams. You're going to give up your life. You're going to give up your joy. And there are plenty of people in the world who would love to kill your joy. And if you're watching this message, it's probably because you met at least one of them, right? And, you know, there is no human on this planet that can take the wind right out of my sails like my mom can. And that's what happened that day. And that's what gave me this like inner drive, this inner faith that I just knew I had to do it and I could do it, and there was no reason to believe, but somehow it awoken that faith. It's like when you hit the bottom, the only way to go is back up. And it didn't happen overnight, but something broke through. Like first I had the whole PTSD crash for a week. Didn't get out of bed, didn't shower, didn't do anything, you know, except for just lay in the shit. And you know, she was like poking at me the whole time, like, you can't just do this, you gotta get up, you gotta, and it got to the point where it was so bad that I had to do something, anything to get out of that situation and get moving forward. And that's what I did. And, you know, I ended up jumping to another situation with that former friend of mine, thinking that she was a friend and realizing she too is on this narcissistic spectrum. And, you know, that got uncomfortable really quickly, but that was just like another stepping stone that, you know, and then I had more courage, and then I made my jump back here to Portland and I started my life over. And, you know, it was like one person said to me something, we were talking about narcissism, and, you know, he said, like, you really seem to get this thing about narcissism, like, you really understand this abuse and whatnot. And that's when it dawned on me, like, that is what I need to specialize in. Like I had never honed in on what my specialization was. It was holistic healing, you know, and it was all of that, and it was integration of like past, and I had been working with people who had been abused, but it was mostly sexual abuse and this sort of thing, and I had identified psychological abuse, but I hadn't found, you know, that keyword of narcissistic abuse, and that's what changed everything. And so once I finally had that keyword and I realized like this is my specialization, this is my niche, and I had resolved that within myself in Peru, I realized that that whole situation, even there at the end with my mom and then even with my friend, it was all leading me in this direction. And that's when I just went out there with full force, like with 110% of everything that I had and more. And I just knew I had to do it. It had to work. It was my purpose. And when your purpose gets so big that it overrides the doubt, your own doubt and the doubt of other people, you know, when it overrides all of that, that's when you start moving in that direction. Like that's where that faith comes in, where you just know you have to do it and that it is possible. You have no reason to believe why, but you just know that you have to do it. And that's what happened. And, you know, it didn't happen overnight. It took several months, you know, of working like 12 hours a day every day and taking off like one day here and there to like recover and relax a bit, but like working really hard and dedicated and getting there and just believing, like having that faith that it would get there. That's what gets you there. having that faith and doing the work, having the dedication to get there, and you will get there, and just keep seeing it through, because recognize too that it's not going to happen overnight. And if it's not working, you got to keep shifting, and you got to keep shifting, and you got to shift your perspective, you got to shift your actions, right? And you're going to keep getting there, you're going to whittle away at that like a sculpture, It's not a painting, it's like you don't do it like real quick and stuff. It's a sculpture and it takes time, and you have this big mass of stuff and you got to kind of like etch away at it and see what it's becoming, and maybe you don't even exactly know what it's becoming before it becomes, like you have an idea of what you want to create, but maybe you start to create it and it even like takes its own shape and form as you're going, and you even discover along the way more about it than you even knew, because as it's being revealed to you, you're revealing more of who you are, and then that question just comes down to like, who are you and what are you here to do? Like, who do you want to be and what is it that you want to do? And that's it. That's your answer. And go do it, and go learn about it. Go study everything you can about it. Go find somebody who did it and go learn how they did it, and then model your steps after that, and recognize that you're a unique individual and you have unique experiences and unique path. But if you see someone who's done something similar than what you did, you can use it as a template. It's like a stepping stone, something to like start moving on, a blueprint to follow to get there. And that's what I'm here to give you, is a blueprint out of the woods. I was there, and it finally ended after decades, and it was really only 8 months ago. Like, it wasn't that long ago. And it wasn't like that's when I started doing the work. I've been doing the work for more than a decade. It's just that I didn't realize what that very, very specific thing was. And until I totally fully understood that, it wasn't like everything could come in together, into place. And so, that's the message I want to bring you here today, is like, even when you're at the bottom and there's no reason to believe in yourself or in life or in this universe or anything, like, just have that faith. Have the faith and do the work and know who you are and what you want to do. When you decide that and jump and do it, it's going to happen. It's not just, it's not just going to happen by itself. Like, you actually have to do the work and you have to be dedicated, But if you're just working and you're just taking action, but you have no faith, it's not going to manifest either. That's the path of self-doubt. And that's everything that the killjoys, all the people who want to kill your joy, that's what they want to instill in you, is that doubt. Don't let that doubt become a poison in your mind, because that seed will plant and it'll grow like a weed and it'll corrupt your mind and it'll stop you from having that faith that's going to take you forward. So I just wanted to bring you that message today, and I hope that you all are having faith, because, why not? Why not? Like, why would you want to stay stuck there? Why would you want to stay stuck in hopelessness, in helplessness, in this feeling like it's never going to get better? Because it can get better. It definitely can. You just need to get into the right perspective, and then you need to take action in that direction. I'm sending you all a big hug.